Well, Scott, it looks like we're watching the latest Bond movie.
It does indeed have the look and feel of James Bond, Greg, but it's Kingsman, a semi-serious spoof of Bond. Let's recap the movie.
Well, we're introduced to young Eggsy Unwin, Taron Egerton, whose father was a Kingsman, a member of the British Secret Service. A member of the British Secret Service trainee was killed 17 years ago. Eggsy has been through the army and is now living with his mom. Mom has an abusive boyfriend. Eggsy goes to the local tavern for a beer and steals the local bully's car. When he's thrown in jail, he calls the number on the back of his father's medal to get a one-time help out of trouble.
Meanwhile, climate scientist James Arnold is kidnapped by eccentric billionaire Richard Valentine, played by Samuel L. Jackson. A rescue attempt is foiled by Valentine's sidekick Gazelle, who kills people with her bladed prosthetic legs. Soon Valentine is meeting with world leaders, kidnapping many of them, and giving away billions of SIM cards, promising the entire world free cell phone service and free internet forever. Kingsman Harry Hart has taken Eggsy under his wing and has him competing with a group of other trainees to become the next Kingsman.
Scott, this was a strange little film. It's clearly the origin story of a new Bond-esque type hero, albeit a younger version. Eggsy is only 22 years old and is taking the role of the elegant English spy. But what puzzles me is who is the audience for this film? I mean, it feels a lot like a dystopian young adult film with a young star and an older mentor. But it has an R rating, and it's deserved. There's a lot of foul language and a talk of sex, and even a bit of sex in the end, if you'll excuse my pun. This isn't a movie for teens, and it doesn't appear to be a movie for the Bond-era grown-ups either. So, as the plots are, wisecracks seem aimed at the younger crowd, but that only leaves the millennials, and that's a pretty small slice of the movie-going pie. So, just who was this film aimed at?
Greg, I think they cast a really wide net intentionally by making a movie that appeals to an older James Bond audience, as well as a middle-aged female audience that swoons over Colin Firth, and then maybe even a young crowd who is drawn to this young, talented newcomer, Taron Egerton. Kingsman, as a movie, impressed me. It's a film that tries to be clever, and it succeeds. We have all the elements of great storytelling, such as a young underdog hero whom everyone underestimates, a strong mentor figure who sees the kid's potential, a charismatic villain with plenty of firepower and henchmen behind him, and a screenplay that is both playful and witty.
Well, I'll tell you, I enjoyed myself, but there was another curious scene that I couldn't quite swallow. In most hero-mentor stories, there's a point where the hero must go on alone. Often, as in the case of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, the mentor dies, leaving the hero to use all the mentor has taught him to gain the main goal. Usually that death comes at the hands of the villain after the mentor has done some heroic deed. In this story, our mentor, Harry Hart, goes to a church in rural Kentucky looking for the villain. This is no ordinary church. The parishioners are the kind of haters fashioned after the Westboro Baptists. They hate everyone and everything that doesn't meet their narrow definition of holy. The villain turns on an audio signal that causes everyone in the church to become extremely violent, including Harry. What follows is a protracted bloodbath where Harry uses his super spy skills to kill everyone in the church. Once Harry has killed everyone, he walks out of the parking lot where the villain finishes him off. What's strange about this is that usually in action adventures, the shootout scene between the hero and the villain's henchmen. The henchmen often have their faces covered with helmets or ninja masks and are usually in some foreign land. They are nameless, faceless evildoers, fully deserving of their fate. What are the makers of Kingsman saying about rural America? Have we become the Afghanistan, Iraq, or Iran of the New World Order? Were the Westboro Baptists so evil that they were deserving of being maimed and murdered in their own church? It's kind of a strange artistic choice that confused me.
You're right, Greg. That was a bizarre scene. Let's take a look at the hero story. It follows the classic pattern with our hero Eggsy being thrown into a dangerous, unfamiliar world and needing to acquire new skills and self-confidence to achieve his mission. Harry Hart is his capable mentor figure, and strangely, Eggsy's love interest is a prize of a princess whom he does not claim until his mission is completed. The blatant sexuality of Bond films is the butt of many jokes in Kingsman, pardon the pun. Samuel L. Jackson plays the role of a quirky, brilliant, lisping villain who is cleverly aware of the parallel between his plot to destroy the world and similar plots in myriad Bond films of yesteryear. I enjoyed Richard Valentine's mastermind villainy. His evil sidekick is the menacing and dangerous Gazelle who slices and dices her victims using her razor-sharp legs with great acrobatic skill. This innovative, evil pairing made this movie a cut above most action spy movies.
Right. Usually we'd call this the mastermind henchman villain pattern, but I got the impression that Gazelle was more of a sidekick than a simple henchman. Aside from Colin Firth's mentor character, we also see a sort of mastermind on the hero side with Michael Caine playing the role of Arthur. He directs all the action, and Harry and Eggsy do all the work. Also on the hero side of the aisle is a gaggle of 20-somethings who are competing with Eggsy to get into the Kingsman. This is a sort of ensemble cast. It resembles the ensemble pattern we've seen in dystopian YA stories like The Hunger Games and Divergent. There are the preppy, entitled upper crust types, the underprivileged types, and the disposable few. Of course, our hero stands out from the crowd as he resolves problems in ways unique to his station as the underdog character.
Yeah, in terms of the supporting cast, I think this movie's supporting cast struck just the right balance in terms of quality and quantity. There are plenty of people supporting Eggsy besides his mentor, Harry. There is his mother, his fellow cohorts in training to become Kingsman, and his senior colleague, Merlin. I've already mentioned the excellent villain pairing, but also wreaking havoc in Eggsy's life are the hoodlums from his old neighborhood, along with his senior mobster, who is his boyfriend's mother. The entire cast is eccentric and memorable.
Kingsman: The Secret Service is fun, albeit flawed and confusing movie. I like the origin story of young Eggsy becoming a Kingsman and coming of age as a mature adult. I also like the nods to the original Bond films. Kingsman brought back the things that made Ian Fleming's Bond so much fun. However, I can't reconcile the confusing demographics of this film. I give Kingsman 3 out of 5 reels. Eggsy as the hero is a by-the-numbers young adult hero. He starts out uncertain in himself, and through the mentorship of an older, more experienced Kingsman, becomes the man we know he can be. Eggsy overcomes not only his world-domineering villain, but also returns home to his ordinary world to conquer the bullies in his and his mother's lives. I give Eggsy 4 out of 5 heroes. The supporting cast was just about as perfect as you can hope for in any picture. If I have any criticism, it is that there are too many supporting characters. Samuel L. Jackson's villain is quirky with his Google Glass spectacles and lisping speech impediment, but never thought he was particularly menacing. His sidekick henchman Gazelle was not only beautiful and deadly, but also cunning. However, the villain's army was pretty much just a faceless mass of mindless idiots running into gunfire and getting mowed down. On the hero's side, we have the mastermind Arthur, who runs the Kingsman, and mentor Harry Hart, both played by veteran and skilled British actors. There's a love interest female Kingsman who never really bears fruit as a love interest, and then there's the opposing Kingsman candidates who are pretty disposable themselves. And there's Eggsy's mother, and finally we have her abusive boyfriend and his posse of bullies, another mastermind and henchman for our hero to overcome. All in all, that's a pretty full deck, and when it comes to a supporting cast, I give the cast 4 out of 5.
Kingsman is a fun movie that is crisp and clever in its writing, acting, and pacing. With the exception of that bizarre church scene, I did not find it as confusing as you did, Greg. The movie is British-made, and so I'd call it delightfully different and a welcome change from cookie-cutter American-made films. Colin Firth fans will not be disappointed, and newcomer Taron Egerton does a commendable job in a role that requires him to walk a fine line between drama and comedy. I was happily surprised by the quality of Kingsman, and so I'm pleased to award it 4 reels out of 5. As I've noted, the hero story features most of the elements of the classic hero's journey. The job of any mentor is to help the hero transform himself, and almost comically, Harry Hart tells young Eggsy, "I'm here to transform you." During the journey, Eggsy encounters friends, enemies, father figures, love interests, so it doesn't get much better than this. Eggsy deserves a fine rating of 4 heroes out of 5. The supporting characters were a diverse bunch that fulfilled all their essential roles to near perfection. There is some depth to the characters that one doesn't always see in throwaway action spy movies. Harry Hart's likable brilliance is matched by Richard Valentine's devious charisma. We get to know these characters and either love them or love to hate them, and that's high praise for any movie. I give the cast a rating of 4 out of 5.
Well, Scott, that brings us to the end of another review. The overall scores then are 3.5 reels for Kingsman, 4 heroes, and 4 supercast. So let's take a look next week at our next movie, which will be Chappie, and we'll be reviewing that and bringing it to you next time. So until then, see you later, Scott.
Yep, say goodbye, everyone, and please be sure to check out our website, realheroes.net, and our upcoming book, Real Heroes, Volume 2 on the villains.